since we're going to be clutch kicking all the time, and this is going to see a ton of... It's going to see a ton of
It's a technical term.
Technical term.
Don't question it. What's up, Brite Nation?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
So, do you remember that one time where Kevin was like, hey, we should drift week. We should race in drift week. But we don't have a drift car, so what did he do?
I bought a Corvette. Yeah, I mean, my best buddy who hosts Drift Week had a Corvette, and he's like, I'll sell you a Corvette. And I was like, cool.
Kevin's like, babe, I bought you a Corvette. And then we raced Drift Week. Well, before we raced Drift Week, we went to East Coast Supercharging in New Jersey.
Put a blower on it.
Yep.
Tuned it. Did all their diff brace and their torque tube stuff upgrades, and then we had a Drift Week car.
Built a monster Corvette.
Yep.
Raced Drift Week. Had a blast. Kevin blew it up. We sold it.
I didn't blow it out. This is the transmission. Another shop that had worked on it, not ECS, forgot to put trans fluid back in it when they did trans coolers. Anyway, this is pre-Chris. Pre-Chris.
Yep. And it was, anyways, point is, it blew up.
I sold it. I was like, I'm not doing Drift Week anymore.
We're not doing Drift Week anymore. We don't have the time to drift as much as we used to. It's fine.
Fast forward a year.
Kevin goes, babe,
I bought you a Corvette.
Let's race Drift Week. Bought a Corvette, a second Corvette. We raced Drift Week. And then a few months later, again, it was like, we're never going to race Drift Week again. We don't have the time. What are we doing?
Yeah, like, I'm not going to do it.
We sold the Corvette.
Yeah, of course we did.
Sold the second Corvette.
Yeah. Drift Week is in 2 months.
Kevin woke up the other day and said, babe,
I bought you a Corvette.
Guess what? I bought you a Corvette. With your money, by the way. And now, we have a third Corvette. All right, so a couple things. Number one, how is it that all three of the Vettes that you purchased
are black? Yeah, I don't.
Have been black.
I don't know.
The number one color I dislike the most in a vehicle, not because it looks bad. I think it looks amazing when it's clean. They're just never clean. They're clean for 5 minutes and they're dirty again. It's impossible to keep them looking great.
Had the Ferrari
all the time.
Black. Anyway, so they're all black.
They've all been black. Now
but this one's different.
It's different. Number two, it is finally a Z06, which is what Kevin has been dreaming of to buy me, apparently, for years now.
So crazy fun fact. I've loved the Z06 since it came out. I've always wanted a C6 Z06. They've always been affordable. I just have never had a need or use for it. And I've always just been into other things for some reason. But I've always wanted one. And I've driven hundreds of cars, lots of race cars, lots of everything. And I've never driven a C6 Z06 somehow. So this is going to be, I'll be driving my wife's. For the first time ever, I'll be driving my wife's C6 Z06. This is not mine.
Oh, yeah, clearly.
I'll test drive it sometimes for you.
Oh, okay.
Now, the C6 Z06 really shouldn't need any introduction. What sets it apart from all the rest is this LS7. A 7-liter, 505 horsepower, like V8, all aluminum monster, revs to 7,000 RPM, and it's just supposed to be like absolutely glorious, and somehow I've never driven one. This one, one inherent issue they did have was a heads issue with the valve stem seals, something. Anyway, this one's been upgraded. So this has a stage 3 cam in it, and it has the head and valve job done, so it makes about 550 wheel.
However, that is what the previous owner is claiming how much power it makes. However, he never actually had it professionally tuned, and he never actually had it on a dyno. So we are once again at East Coast Supercharging in New Jersey to not only get a ton of stuff done and added to the new Z06 right off the bat to get it prepped for Drift Week, but also because we are going to get it back on the dyno and actually see what type of power it's making.
Now keep in mind, I actually bought this thing off the internet, sight unseen.
For me.
Don't even know the guy. Wire transferred him the money. Don't know the guy. So if like he could have just taken the car and the money and been gone. So I do know he said there was a couple blemishes.
This is our first time seeing the vehicle
along
with all of you. We didn't pick it up from the guy. A friend did. A friend trailered it here.
Thank you, Max, so much. He drove 6 hours out of his way, 6 hours each direction.
Yeah. To pick it up and trailer it here to East Coast Supercharging, where we just arrived today to also see it for the first time in real life.
So we
haven't even started it.
We haven't driven it. We haven't started it.
So we're gonna listen to it for the first time.
I think it's interesting he has an air fuel gauge, but it's not turboed or supercharged, unless it used to be. I don't know.
We don't know.
The interior is very nice.
It is. Look, it has really nice, supple.
Let's see if
leather
it starts.
seats. Oh God.
Well,
Unedited. It's a great way to start this entire thing. Give it.
hey, it has heads-up display. That's kind of cool.
That's cool. If you ignore the part where it
Didn't start?
just start.
It says 0 RPM, 0 mile an hour. I had to give it throttle. Has a check engine light.
So in addition to the check engine light, remember it has a big cam in it, so that's why it sounds very blah 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 blah.
I mean, it sounds like a race car. Oh wait. That's better.
Is that on the remote? You just changed the exhaust? Oh, it's a. Oh, okay. So the exhaust has a valve, which is that's kind of our neighbors will appreciate that.
Okay. So it has a big cam in it, and clearly not tuned quite right. I guess he could have tuned it that way. So like when you're sitting there, it sounds like an old muscle car. It's fuel injected. It's got a computer. It doesn't need to run like that. I don't think. It does have.
We'll find out.
It does have 53,000 miles on it, which is pretty low for an 08.
Now tell me, Kevin, this time around, since this is my Z06 that you bought me with my money,
Get to it.
are we installing
Pitter patter.
racing seats?
Yes.
And then are we adjusting the driving racing seat so that it fits me?
Yes. I have.
Not you.
I have sliders,
Oh,
so we can slide it.
so that you can drive it.
Yes.
So we're not making the driver's seat fit specifically for me,
Where are
and
you
the
going with this?
passenger seat fit specifically
No,
for
the
you.
passenger seat is going to be down and all the way back so we can fit everybody. If you guys want to go for a
Oh,
ride along
okay.
with Brittany driving you around a racetrack in her new...
Or apparently Kevin driving you around in my car
maybe.
on the racetrack.
Maybe.
Now, since we did buy this, though, to turn it specifically into this car, little things like this, and this, and this, and the door here that's damaged, which isn't really fixable. The fender down here is damaged. Obviously, all the paint chips. This is missing things. But none of that, none of that really matters. Yeah, there's some water damage you can see. So it's far, far, far from a pristine C6 Z06, but that's okay because it's gonna be a drift car. But honestly, it doesn't look that bad.
Now, East Coast Supercharging obviously is known for their blower setup and their blower system, but they do all kinds of things like installing full-built motors and doing regular maintenance and rebuilding motors and. Well, the first thing they did was got a print up of why our check engine light was on, and I've got like 10 pages here.
All of the codes.
All of the codes, and I don't know why, but we can go over a couple of them real quick, and as you can see, it's on the lift. It also has quite a few leaks that we're going to go over. None of this was disclosed to me before buying it.
This does
Oh
not
well,
surprise me at
it's
all.
going to be a drift car. So we'll just run down a few of these. So engine control module, 2 faults. Electronic brake control module, 8 faults, which we're going to be deleting that anyway. Supplemental inflatable restraint, I don't care. Body control module, that's good, that's good. Instrument panel cluster, 9 faults. Like I don't know. None of that looks too concerning.
We're hoping that at least some of those are from like maybe some sort of weird electrical or something that just
with him tuning it and flashing it. But when you did hear me first start it, it went whoa. and then started. So we might have
that was after it didn't start at all. So
well, the first time it tried that too.
Yeah.
Where it like drains and like nothing's happening. So what we're gonna do is I think we're gonna put a new battery in it just in case, and then possibly maybe a new starter, because like the last thing you want to do is get on drift week and like have your starter go out. And this is an 08.
So basically we're gonna do that, then maybe we'll clear a lot of those, and then hopefully a lot of them don't come back, because we do know from previous experience that like if you have low voltage on a battery or anything like that, they can just trigger a bunch of stuff that might not actually be wrong. So hopefully that's the case.
Check this out though. So we do have some leaks. We've got some power steering leaks. We've got some trans leaks. Another thing about this motor is, do you see these lines here? So this is a dry sump motor. So it actually isn't a wet sump oiling system.
What does that mean for those that don't know?
It means it's fancy race car stuff.
Layman terms for all of you guys. I'm sure that helped explain totally what it was.
Yeah, fancy race car stuff. Ooh, it does have long tube headers on it. So it's got long tubes. It's got some kitty deletes. Looks like we got an O2 sensor leak, exhaust leaking out of the O2 sensor there. So it looks like it's in pretty good condition, but for only 50-something thousand miles, I mean, it's kind of on the more beat up side than I thought it would be.
For the mileage.
Yeah.
Pretty good condition is obviously a very subjective word to use here. For us, this is a pretty good condition because our ultimate purpose in the end is a drift car, which you don't need a very good condition to start out with for something like that. So, subjective. So close to my face. All right, now to give you guys an idea of everything, or at least some of the stuff that we're going to be installing here at East Coast Supercharging before we head back across country, back home. I'm sorry, this is awkward because I have a dead asleep pup in my arms, and I can't trust her to walk around because she's still not potty trained and she'll pee everywhere.
And she also eats everything on the floor.
Vacuum cleaner. She's part Dachshund, part vacuum cleaner. Anyways, point is, we're learning from our mistakes. That's the important thing to mention here. We've had issues in the past during drift weeks and with previous Corvettes. We're going to try to remedy those this time around so that the issues that used to happen won't happen again.
It's a lot of abuse, like beating the crap out of your car drifting and then having to drive hundreds of miles. That's a lot of abuse, and
it is. So for those of you that haven't watched our old drift week videos, essentially what it is, it's like drag week if you've heard of that, but we have to drive our drift week hundreds of miles track to track. Drift week.
You have to drive our drift week.
Cut that. Drive our drift car hundreds of miles from track to track, beat the crap out of it at the track, that's fun, but then drive it again to the next track, right? So odds for catastrophe really high.
Don't let it fool you. It's called Drift Week, but it's like 20 days long.
Yeah, it's Drift Week. It's not a week long. It gets longer every time. It was like first 10 days, and it was 15.
It was 7, then 10, then 15, now it's 18 days.
This one's supposed to be almost 3 weeks long. It's not. It's Drift Weeks. It's gonna be Drift Month come another year or two.
Okay, so what did we learn? What did we learn last time?
One thing that we learned was that don't trust the stock clutch. We had a really bad clutch slipping issue on our last Corvette at the last drift week, especially around third gear. Not doing that this time. We're setting up straight from the get-go with a solid clutch that can handle everything we're gonna throw at it. So this is a twin disc monster clutch, and it is actually kind of custom set up specifically for me and this Corvette and the type of power we eventually plan on putting into it. However, it's also supposed to give me a relatively still stock feel on the clutch pedal, which is important because this is not just
because you got these little tiny legs,
tiny little bird legs,
your little clutch legs.
Anyways, no, we do still intend for this to be a drivable street car. Again, we have to drive it to and from every track, but just in general, it's not going to be a drift car only car. So that's important. Stock feel from Monster Clutch. This was built in my home state of Texas, by the way, which is pretty awesome as well. And then also, another lesson we learned, don't trust the factory fan components because they will shut down on you. The entire module will, apparently, and leave you stranded at a gas station in the middle of nowhere. Also happened on the last drift week. So, not playing that game this time around. So, instead we're installing this DeWitt's radiator, which has these brand new brushless fan setups And if you could tell, it's actually a fully enclosed shroud as well,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool because that's going to make the cooling way more efficient, which a lot of people don't generally realize or do when they just slap fans on there.
Yeah, people will buy these fans and then like use the zip tie things to hold them through the radiator with no shroud around them, and then they wonder why it works. But
It works, but not nearly as well or as efficiently as it could or it should.
So you got to pull the headers to pull the starter off, and since it's an 08, we figured we just order another starter because, like,
We have everything on.
yeah. And when we first started it, when you heard it, it went, "Ruh, ruh, ruh, ruh," which we think might be a bad battery or bad ground, but it also could be a starter that's kind of going bad or causing a lot of draw, and so it's gonna have a little like.
Why are you doing it down there like that?
So that's that one, and then
That's the new one. All right, put your shake weight down, please. Let's keep going. I had to pause for a second.
the little.
So I can put
kangaroo
peanut
ball.
in my pocket so I can have two hands to film. Hold on, we gotta show you something.
All right, so they got the clutch out. Pilot bearing's new. Clutch disc is new. Pressure plate's new. So all that's pretty good. Not going to be useful for what we're going to do. Except, so if you look, you have to pull like the whole drivetrain, minus the engine, but you even have to drop the cradle sometimes. So you have to pull all that to get to this. And they didn't replace the flywheel last time, and it doesn't even look like they scuffed it up. So this is, the flywheel would look like this if they replaced it. But I don't know why you would go through all that and then
Not replace the flywheel.
replace the flywheel.
I mean, but again, unfortunately, even though it's brand new, that isn't quite what we need for what we plan on doing.
The stock LS7 clutch probably wasn't going to hold up to drifting, but
it's okay because we've got a new flywheel going in.
Cool.
Monster clutch.
multi-disc.
It's a multi-disc and made in Texas.
Lilu Dallas multi-pass.
Lilu Dallas
Multi-pass. Multi-pass. So now, learning from other people's mistakes on other drift weeks, we have seen where Corvettes have exploded their torque tube. So this is a torque tube, and what runs through that torque tube is your drive shaft. And I know it sounds really weird. So it's because the engine's up front and then the transmission's in the back. So generally you have your engine and your transmission, and then you have a drive shaft that connects to your rear differential. In this case, you have your engine up front, then you have your torque tube, which has a drive shaft inside of it that then connects to the transmission that's in the back. Now, there's some bearings on this guy here, and there's bearings over here.
Right there.
Now, between the input shaft and the output shafts, basically, is what's happening. This is just a connector between the transmission and the engine. Or these things called a guibo.
I love that word. Say it
Yeah,
again.
a guibo. Guibo. So this is rubber. It's this hard rubber, and then with basically metal inserts. So it just bolts all this together, and it creates it like an anti-vibration. So generally, this is where your U-joint would be.
Yes.
So on a Jeep or anything else, this is where your U-joint would be connected. BMWs, Lamborghinis, there's quite a few vehicles that actually use this, and that's to keep vibrations down and NVH, which is something about harshness. I don't know. It works well, but it's a wearable item, and since we're going to be clutch kicking all the time, and this is going to see a ton of... It's going to see a ton of
It's a technical term.
technical term.
Don't question it.
So if you look here, you can kind of see it's wearing here, and what's happening is as it's twisting, it's starting to break down the rubber kind of at each of those joints. So preemptively, when I knew we were coming here, I was like, guys, get me new guibos.
All right, so you can see they've got the drivetrain back into the Corvette, but one thing you might have noticed is there are a couple extra components that weren't there when we took it out, including these braces you'll see here, and this one right up here. And I'm gonna kind of show you guys exactly what this is. If you've watched our previous video here at East Coast Supercharging with our old Corvette, you already have an idea. But for those of you who haven't seen that video and aren't familiar, this is East Coast Supercharging's trans rear brace. And if it looks like a cage, that's because essentially that's exactly what it is. And the intention of this is to increase the rigidity between your transmission and your rear differential. And the reason for that is, for those of you that don't know, the trans and the diff are both cast. Now, although in the Z06 it's a little bit thicker, so it's a little bit stronger, in general, cast is cheap, but it's weak. And when you're putting a ton of power through that drivetrain, essentially, especially with drifting, when you're clutch kicking, so it's a lot of sudden power right there, jerking everything and pushing everything through.
Phrasing.
Sorry, it's a lot back to back there. But essentially what happens is this causes the transmission and the diff, it wants to torque this way. So essentially your seal up here up top wants to pull apart while the seal on the bottom is wanting to shove together. And what this brace does is it helps to prevent that, so it not only prevents cracking, wear and tear over time, but also just keeps the seal tight. Now, in addition to their trans brace, we also have East Coast Supercharging's Torque Tamer, which is essentially a brace for your torque tube. And basically it's this piece right here, and it's made up of a bracket, and it's basically a U-bolt that goes up and over the torque tube. And again, everything wants to move when you're sending power through, and this just prevents that torque tube from moving too much, again, preventing wear and tear down the line on all of the components. And then lastly, we have ECS's axle loops right here. And these are pretty self-explanatory, pretty simple. Essentially, in the event that hopefully we don't break an axle, but in the event that we were to break an axle, these essentially just keep that broken axle contained so it doesn't go flying around, destroying everything else, like your gas tank or something.
Oh, the gas tank
yeah,
right
the
there?
gas tank is right here.
So gas tank, so you don't take out your...
you don't take anything else out, your brake lines, your arms, anything.
Yeah.
It is a preventative measure for a worst case scenario.
All right, so that was first start. Now he's working some magic on the car to tune it. So the guy we bought it from, he does have an AFR gauge. It's an air fuel ratio gauge in there. I think he's the one that put the cam on it. It does have the heads done. I think I mentioned that. And then he's been messing with the tuning. I never drove it. My buddy Max, who got it for us, started and drove it, and he was like, "Yeah, we need some work."
That's not what he said.
What did he say?
He said this runs like shit.
Well,
Was
okay.
exactly what he
Well,
said.
all he did was start it and load it up. So at idle, it doesn't really want to, and we're not warm yet, so he's just doing like cold start and tuning. So maybe when it's warm, it fires up and it runs fine. But right now, cold start, you've got to like give it throttle to get it started, and then it's idle searching, and it has a big cam, and that's hard to tune. And so even if you know a little bit about tuning, sometimes you need to know a little bit more. So he's a really nice guy I bought it from. And I know he's watching this, so don't get too mad at me, but I'm just trying to be truthful with everything we got here, bud.
Way better.
So the first flash that he did, it started up and
All right, guesses. What's it going to make? How much power is it going to make? And is it going to run clean? Is it going to be fine? Our supercharged one made 590 at the tire. But that was a 6.2 liter. This is a 7 liter. What do you guys think? You guys got to guess. You guys?
I have no idea, honestly. 550.
You got to guess. You can't get,
550.
550. Okay, I'm going to go 542 and like 517 torque.
Why are you picking such a weird number oddly close to what I'm picking?
You didn't say 517 torque.
No, I said 550 horse though, and
Yeah.
you said 542.
Yeah.
You should. What is this? What is that show where if you're over under? What is it?
Yeah, that's not how it works. It's
Okay,
just
I
whoever's
feel like that's
closer.
not what works.
No,
Yeah.
no, no. But I just don't. No, I don't know. We're gonna hit 550.
I'm
542,
just gonna keep it even.
520.
500, 550, 500, 550, 500. Okay, so first pull without really touching too terribly much. There you go. Woo! Even I was way off.
Yeah.
Way higher than you though.
Windshield's tinted on this thing.
I know. So you can't see. We're gonna get pulled over for windshield tint. All right, so you can see here. So around 2400 is when it crests about 500 torque, and then it just chills.
It's flat the whole way. And
all
then,
the way across.
And then it crosses 500 horsepower right
Right
at 4,900.
Right at 4,900 or so, 5,000 is when it hits 500. That's gonna destroy the Supra and the Ferrari. If we can get traction. It'll probably just spin tire the whole time. I don't know what all that smoke is though.
So there's a clutch line feed that is leaking right by the header, and so it could be.
Hopefully it's that burning off.
We'll
find out eventually. Oh yeah, there you go. Okay, just kidding. Figured out what it is. So he was explaining to us. So the exhaust is all slip fit. Only way they really can get it on easily is just use a ton of WD-40. So it'll probably take a little while for all that to burn off, which is probably what most of the smoke you see coming out the back end is. Hopefully.
I'd say that's gonna be about it. 584, 542. That is.
Fucking sick is the word you were looking for.
So your C6 LS2 car with the blower made 590.
Yes. So this is
NA. No blower, so this is gonna.
NA.
That's nuts.
Pretty wild.
584. It seems pretty insane to me. I don't know. I'm pretty.
Clearly we all
that.
underguessed. So super impressed, super excited. Now we just got to get it home and race it against the
What do you
demon
think
child
if we put an ECS
and the Ferrari
supercharger?
and my Supra.
If we put an ECS supercharger on that, it'd probably be making like 750, 800 somewhere.
Like we said, that was originally the plan. We just couldn't get it in time while we were in the area.
Yeah.
But who knows what else we'll be doing.
Yeah, and if you're anywhere out here on the East Coast or anywhere in the area, obviously they kind of know what they're doing.
Anything Corvette
Pretty
related,
much.
LS related, these are the guys
Did you
to
ever
go
show them
to.
the twin turbos in the back of their red one? In the back of their C8?
Hold up. So what Kevin is referring to are these beauties right here. Uno turbo, Dos turbo, twin turboed C8, which is super sick. Now, although ours is not quite that cool, or not even nearly as cool as the C8R that we showed you guys,
You can't drift either one of those.
I would never
You
drift
can't.
a brand new C8 because we're not on.
Well, they're
Yeah.
not. They don't have a clutch.
Well, that and the
It is
fact
it.
that just
Money-wise.
financially, that this is about the limit of a nice vehicle I'm willing to drift and potentially destroy on a track.
You're
so
not even willing to do that.
I
was
don't
willing
know,
to
it
do
makes
it.
me so hesitant,
I
but
know.
Drift Week is only a couple months away. It's gonna be fantastic. We hope you guys are as excited about it as we are, or maybe as nervous, I don't know, but it'll be great. It'll be fantastic. We're preparing it so that hopefully this time around we spend more time on the track behind the wheel than we do under it fixing shit. So anyways, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Remember, you can find all of your Lite Brite Nation merch and decals at lightbrightstudios.com. Guys, as always, we love you.
And we'll
see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Beep, You're so vicious. So cute. Ow, my finger.